Lee Barclay-Morton. I'm an author, very, very late, as I'm now referring to myself, fashionably late diagnosed autistic. Decided to turn a page, turn the table on that theory. And I've been, yeah, I've been writing, God, seems like forever now, because I got diagnosed in 2021, and I've been working on a memoir about reframing my life and doing a lot of research. And I'm a writer already and a theater person already. So anyway, I'm going to just launch into this and it'll make it clear. Okay, my search for a liberated autistic syntax began decades earlier than understanding I was autistic. The way I defined it then had to do with a desire to get under the hood and see what the mechanics were that created what we agreed upon as reality, but somehow seemed a bit fictional all the same, which is in some ways a good way of explaining the autistic experience of the neurotypical world, which is filled with a seemingly endless series of invisible webs that you only know are there once you've somehow accidentally broken or got caught in one and are penalized for this unwitting crime. But on the larger level, I saw certain structures that were holding up social systems that seemed unconscious on most everyone else's part. And then when I pointed it out, people would either ignore me or laugh or say the phrase I've learned to dread over the decades, that's the way it is. So much so that by the time I was writing a mission statement for Apocryphal Theatre, I articulated a goal as, quote, unearthing the reality grid, which can be defined as everything we say that's the way it is about. When attempting to challenge one of these so-called immutables, another dreaded phrase was often deployed with chortling smug certainty, there's nothing new under the sun. To which I would usually reply, so like when did everything already officially happen, 1992? But okay, I digress. What I am going to do now is show you some of my own strategies, including excerpts from my memoir in progress, in which I discuss ideas about autistic syntax as well as show possibilities. I'm going to move non-linearly from my most recent writing to earlier experiments with stage text and cut-ups, which will lead back to my original explorations, which were designed for a theater lab, which I've adapted for this group for Zoom with an eye to liberating autistic syntax, which such that we can embody our experiences of autistic perception. In relation to this, I'll offer the prompts now and paste them into the chat for reference. You'll have time after the presentation, after I'm speaking, to answer them as well, but I just want them to be in here. And I'm going to be offering them in a minute, but while I'm speaking, everyone else is muted, so you don't have to worry about interrupting me. You can respond with words. Sorry. Yeah, while I'm speaking, everyone else is muted, so you don't have to worry about interrupting me. You can respond with words or any other forms of expression are invited to participate throughout while I'm speaking via writing, drawing, sounding, gesturing, or a modality I'm not even thinking about in response to the presentation and to your own experience with this subject and or the prompts. Anyone who is non-speaking is welcome and encouraged to respond in any way that works for you. You're included here and you can participate in the exercise later if you want to. Everyone can record responses however you want, and you'll be given a chance to share them during the gathering or keep them private. At the end of the first part of the presentation, after a 5 to 10 minute break for anyone who wants to respond to the prompts or to write or record them as they wish, I'll ask who wants to participate in some playful exercises, drawing from your responses to some of these, or you can choose to watch and listen. After the exercises, I'll open up the floor for conversation about this inquiry into autistic syntax. I hope this is the beginning of a longer, more capacious conversation, and this is my offering kind of just to start it up. Okay, and so the prompts, and I'm going to put these in the chat after I read them, and you can respond to them: gestures, sounds, images, facial expressions, stems, silence, stillness. You don't have to do anything now. I just want them there in the chat so you can look at them. What are cliches you hear or read about autistic people, whether you believe them or not? Another one is what's something people say about you. It can be kind or cruel, annoying or neutral. What's an idiosyncratic thing you say or do? This can include echolalia. An echolalia, in case anyone doesn't know, is when you just repeat things you've heard. Not necessarily everyone knows that word, I realize. If you could say or embody anything about your experience in this moment as an autistic person and not worry about being judged, what would it be? How would you describe yourself or feel about yourself? How would you describe yourself? How do you feel about yourself, even if there are no words? What does autistic joy mean to you? How does it feel? What causes it? Can you embody it? What's the most challenging rule you have to figure out or decode or just plain old not like in the neurotypical world? And finally, something I haven't thought of at all that's important to you to express or embody, whether they're words or not. You can also use images, gesture, sounds, etc. The main thing being it's an attempt to express from within your own experience rather than trying to finesse it to make it discernible to the neurotypical world, which is something I know I do all the time in a knee-jerk way. Or even other autistics who you think might not understand you, since as we all know here, we are not a monolith. Okay, so I'm going to see, I don't know if all these words will go into the chat at once, but I'm going to paste it there so you can look at these at some point. Okay, I think, oh, no, they did not get in. Okay, all right, hold on. Okay, I think I can get most of them in. Hold on. All right, there's the first 7 and then the final one. Now you don't have to answer these, you know, these are literally prompts. So it's like if this brings something out in you or if something emerges, and you can just cut and paste on your own and bring it to your own page or somewhere else if you want to. Okay. And finally, as I'm giving this presentation and during the exercises, I invite you to also transcribe or respond to it in any way that feels right to you, including questions. I'm making this invitation explicit because we are so often told to appear to be listening in a certain way that can be challenging, and I don't want you to feel that restriction here. Like if I see you looking down and writing or doing something, I am not going to feel like, oh my God, who are these people? You know, I used to worry, like when I was a teacher, the students I always worried about instinctively were the ones going like this to me. I'm like, they're not hearing a thing. All right, so I won't be able to see anything while I'm presenting, but you can also feel free to add any responses into the chat itself, which I see people already doing, which is great. And I will hopefully get a copy of that. I'm sure somebody can figure that out, to create a kind of real-time palimpsest or marginalia or graffiti if you prefer. This all might seem a bit nonsensical right now, but these prompts can be used in exercises today or as material to inspire your own playful inquiries and experiments. Finally, as I mentioned at the beginning, sorry, water. I'm putting this presentation on the screen because I want there to be room for you to hear and not hear, understand or not, and allow those gaps to be part of the experience. You'll hear fairly soon how I have used gaps in understanding for the prelude of my memoir in progress, which is an example of my most recent writing and thinking and experimenting with autistic syntax. And so we'll begin at the beginning. So what I'm reading now is right now it's the prelude, and it's the most recent writing I've done. So the beginning is a quote from a wonderful book called Theory of Water by Leanne Simpson. NIBI decenters itself. It leaks, moves, flows, and reconnects, not as real estate or enclosure or property, but as a living network, linking endless forms of life, working with each other to bring about more life, a more diversity of life, more abundance of life. Water is a matrix of bonds and attachments amongst living things of all kinds, a cascade of living beings across time and space on a cosmic scale, extending into ancient times and into the future. And then into my words. She is born without skin. She doesn't know this. Neither does anyone else. It's not a conspiracy. No one knows. There's, of course, more to this going on in the background in the larger culture, but no one in her foreground, aka family, has a clue. But here's what it's like. Everything hurts except when it doesn't. The ocean feels good. The sound of the waves breaking on the beach is soothing. Her mother's touch is not. A pillow soothes her, unless it's a feather pillow, which is itchy. Clothes are itchy mostly, bright lights are painful. Her parents fighting makes her hold her breath until she turns blue when they notice they stop fighting. Looking now in 2025 at the sand and hearing the ocean in Westray, the North Sea this time, the echo of the Atlantic audible from the other side of the promontory. I have the gift of my skin back, or knowledge of its absence, not sure which, but knowing who I am writing from here. I tell you this, you don't have to hold your breath throughout. Know that there is a way out and through, but it's not linear and it never was, and neither am I, and this will not be either. I'm afraid all writing is masking somehow, but we'll try anyway to raid the inarticulate, to paraphrase Eliot, the odd mix of joy and extreme sensitivity to everything that is autistic experience, like being a human divining rod, quivering in response to each shift in energy, the world's, yours, mine, the oceans, the air, the sand, the wind, the fate of an animal, or even a bug. Concern for tiny spiders. The movement from one to the other is the concern of this book, alongside the reasons it took so long for me to understand who I am. And yes, as the Buddhists say, all identity is arbitrary. Yeah, okay, yeah. But there are some ways in which some of us experience the world that are so fundamentally different than most that knowing one's neurokin makes the ability to be on this earth possible. It's not just identity as in personality, but a radical difference. The reality of autism and being autistic is an existential threat to all truisms and axiomatic assumptions. And that's why you find us so difficult. We mess up the grids, don't fit in the boxes. Your ideas about how to fix us, well, perhaps well-meaning, are always harmful. And you wonder why we aren't grateful. Laugh, cry, emoji. As 19th century philosopher William James observed, the unadapted are all around us, but most people don't notice because that which is, quote, irregular doesn't fit into the well-worn grooves of expectation. This book and these words are songs for the unadapted ones. I hope you will listen. I need you to listen. We have to listen to the rest of you all the time. Try to decode you. Try to find an acceptable appearance to live with you here on land. Consider this an invitation to dive into the ocean, learn to swim below the surface, become the water. All you need to do is listen to the waves, tune out the noise of how it should be, and listen. The song will become audible. Perhaps you'll even feel the joy of the connection to so much more than the limited lens of daily neuronormative life. There are many ways to be unadapted. Even before I knew I was autistic, I counted myself amongst the unadapted and created a website featuring this William James quote. There are infinitely more things unadapted to each other in this world than there are things adapted. Infinitely more things with irregular relations than with regular relations between them. But we look for the regular kind of thing exclusively and ingeniously discover and preserve it in our memory. It accumulates with other regular kinds until the collection of them fills our encyclopedias. Yet all the while between and around them lies an infinite anonymous chaos of objects that no one ever thought of together, of relations that never yet attracted our attention. I imagine whomever you are reading this probably are too, else why would you be reading this book? Or perhaps you're simply curious about other ways of being and becoming, or most probably it's a reason I can't predict. Even better, welcome. And however you arrived at this passage on this page, please know that all of you is welcome here. The first rule of Unadapted Club is there is no one excluded from Unadapted Club. We find each other. There is no entrance exam or diagnosis necessary, no fees, no tests. If you're here, and you are enough. There is no official way to be or think or feel. You can hurl seagrass back into the ocean, which I watched a young man do wearing a bright yellow reflector vest. Well, he had two carers trailing him in Stromness in this wonderful town in Scotland. He didn't speak, he didn't need to. I knew he was kin. His seemingly senseless mission brought him joy. Brought me joy too. I'm just watching him do it. It was amazing. So you can hurl sea gas back into the ocean or lie in it and roll around. You can listen to the surf or run into the house and blast your favorite music. Find your rhythm, allow it, embrace it, breathe into it. All the rules are fiction. We make them out of fear of exclusion or somehow getting caught in chaos or I don't know what, but fiction, they're all made up. They're not necessary and you don't have to follow them. Some rules are laws and there are consequences for breaking them, but that isn't what I mean. I mean the little rules we hold each other to all day long about sleep schedules and what to wear and when to talk and how many people to see or not and when to do X or Y or A or B or how to write or paint or make theater, or even how to breathe and move. Those rules. And then I have a quote from Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, which I quote throughout the book, but this is the one here, 2.3. The causes of suffering are not seeing things as they are, the sense of I, attachment, aversion, and clinging to life. A fixation of neurotypical grammar policing is on pronouns. For example, who is the I, you, she, he, we, they of it all. Long before I knew I was autistic, I played with these, especially in my stage texts, but also sometimes in prose. The assumption of a stable I always struck me as fictional, and when you listen to people talk, they move between them. Look at the opening to this prelude. The movement happens. It's the music of the thought, how it rhymes with an eternal beat. Some people consider my writing a form of experimentation. Some consider it a form of pathology or dissociation. But however it's read, it's something that's meant to be fixed somehow or resolved. It wasn't until I read Remi Yergeau's authoring Autism that I discovered unstable pronoun usage was one of the first, quote, symptoms that autism research is fixated on. Shall we even say hyper fixated on? As proof of our deficit in the accurate understanding of others and ourselves, rather than as perhaps we, you, they, I experience it, which is as a fluid sense of identity, one that eludes capture in order to avoid the fate of one of the butterflies pinned to the boards in Victorian collections of species, killed by the zeal to classify us, you, her, me, them. Perhaps instead a hyper awareness of ourselves precisely as we exist in the world, and indeed as anyone exists in the world, that these signifiers are, like all signifiers, simply a convenient fiction, but ones we decide to believe in so exclusively that any deviation is considered a pathology. When I allow myself to write freely, the pronouns shift and flow like the weather. Yergeau considers the autistic supposed misuse of pronouns so significant, they end their book with reference to it, suggesting that, and this is a quote from Yergeau, pronouns indicate standpoints, but the autistic are in constant motion. As such, there is no place to stand. Autistic pronouns might be read as a kind of stem, a deeply embedded placeholder that can signify multiple meanings and relationships. Woo-hoo. I've recently withdrawn essays accepted for publication because editors have told me I must simplify or simply not shift the pronouns. I wanted to comply, even tried to, but it felt viscerally wrong. In literature written about autistics, you'll discover this means I am, quote, rigid. If we stand for anything, and especially if that includes ourselves, it must be a pathology. Before knowing I was autistic, I did know that I had experienced what is now referred to as big T trauma in my life, and people informed me that the fluid I, you, she usage was a sign of fragmentation caused by these events. The psychoanalytic gaze, the one we've all learned to deploy on one another, the neuronormative trump card, pun not intended, but I don't hate it. But in a recent essay, autistic writer Anna Nygren recounts how she clapped back at this notion when a writing teacher characterized what she was working on as, quote, a very postmodern text because it worked so much with fragments and intertexts and broken narrative. I said, this is Nygren, I said it was just my experience of the world, and to me it was not broken, which I believe. I almost cried when I read that passage because I've had the precise conversation with so many people about my own work. There is an implicit expectation that when you heal and become whole, the narrator will resolve into a much more convenient, stable I. To describe how autistic experience can be embodied requires a liberated syntax that doesn't follow the rules, while embracing the irony of trying to talk about unmasked autistic text rather than from it. I accidentally discovered one possible answer when reading my attempt to transcribe messy handwriting from my journal done very late at night under dim light when I was awoken by these questions. The rhythm of these incomplete texts embodies this experience, which in my case includes an audio processing difference where I can't filter background noise in order to hear speech than my more polished writing. Where there were incomplete words or phrases I could not discern, I added a line break, allowing for the creation of a new sense in its stead. Consider this an invitation to experience the rhythm of meaning and surrendering to nonsense like waves cresting, then crashing onto the shore, then receding until a new wave rises up. So here we go. At night in bed early, wiped out, but also thinking about the 𝘗𝘢𝘶 issue and excited about autistic syntax, the radical insecurity, the trauma capital T and autistic perception, no place in NT definition pronouns or first, second, or third persons, the reasons for the provisional nature of this, and talk about when they show up, but also want to tell about how organic it is, will remain in book. How in stage text, it's okay somehow to be in persons. There is a different parameter and expectations for signifying to stage still, at least when the person of the person is at play, especially created within this house, as it were. Also realize that is what woke me up. My resentment to parts work is the meaning of the parts. It seems much too definitive, too pat and easy. I know it can help people and does, but these are people that can look back at an I also with confidence and was cleaved, but in an exterior situation to a you, and there is a difference there. Whereas for me, this has never been still. And in terms of autistic perception, I think in general, it seems somehow this perception as surface I, as if there is a there, but and still, this is the perception that the I, and call it spiritual or naturist or whatever, but it's when it is seen and me for the part that turns to shift the 𝘗𝘢𝘶 nature of the thing. I told the story of diagnosis. I withheld the piece because it felt physically wrong. I can't mask in language either, even if it's all masking. Some are solid, they don't cohere, and to frame them this way is wrong. So what I'm constructing, it's the political understanding of a big reason for all this, and in that seems more solid than how even further on, but even with the 𝘗𝘢𝘶, she isn't eliminated. It's I is me at most confident, I suppose, in me of the story I can tell, but you comes in as the asking the I, who are you? Is that it really? The second person is interrogating the first, as witnessing the first, sometimes kindly, other times more judgmentally. The you shows the I stuff. And so they are like lights on water, vivid when over dependent on the sun to shine. The I as POV and daylight, the one with the name Julia Lee Barclay-Morton, she, I shifting time equals shimmering, but how the witness is invisible. Patanjali will need that now. Yes, something about the I here. Yes. When the strongest, the I is the necessary because connected to everything and not needing to be separate, bringing out spiritual is the part that was shot out of the universe and everything and then shot back and knew, as my mind said differently, that everything was exactly as it was meant to be. A shift back to James and variety of religious experience in this moment and the unadapted that in the connection to all of it, not some of it or a 𝘗𝘏𝘂, but all of it. So this is an autistic syntax connection, not arbitrary rhizomatic connecting is that way. So it connects, is not arbitrary, a non-choice, but does not end like a clarity, like a story. It's a forming text, no matter how satisfying a form it takes. All narratives are so. This attempt to create another story into the no, it is an attempt to touch the real experience of being autistic and embody it as best as possible in and to you. My neurokin would probably not need this explanation, but I'm sure 98% of you do, and that's okay. Some readers of my writing, however, do get hung up on the language as well as the parts of mine. We learn to mask well, and we hold on to neurotypical scripts to get intro to the party, to be able to chat with the guests. It's hard to embrace our own language and all. I experiences as a child energy to mimic in some ways attribute lack of stable I. So perhaps it's the continuation of the too much. It absolutely imprints for me to behave in ways for you, and I'm I without there, that. And I'd say that is probably invention of a man, still sense of self in that. So stuck, is that the word? Not sure. But as some of the confidence creeping in that, it's okay too. But the hard thing is the use of the various POVs, and not clear is not a literary construct, but an attempt to be clear. And it's how I see, experience, perceive, and articulate the world. So dance with it if you can, and listen for the music. You don't have to decide it any more than you would try to decode the ocean or a sunset or a hurricane. It's real. It's real and has everything and nothing to do with you at all. You are witness to it, hurt or lifted up by it, or perhaps not, and even still it, but you, I, she has nothing to do with it and everything to do with it. Believe this as a maybe, just see how it feels, how it smells, the music, the rhythm. Imagine that it's coming in waves, ray, touch of, or sand by, a tidal pool, a fragment, a mist. That is action, and most of mine too. We will it's water, shifting, maybe expanding, going, if, and destroying it are in the sundown, then in water art. Nibby always breaks its banks, and so do I, and so do you. Even if you have been taught that there is only one way to write and think of perspectives, you know deep down it's not true. You can feel it, however instinctual it is, easily the thing which will be it, this cooking, this water rising there, mentioned more, not less, but truly different shape, guided mostly by the moon and the earth spin as they open, the wetter as it rocks, and there going to and messing with our little games. She knows that and always has. I have held her as she cry from asking of you, and tell her different. Remember me when melancholy, drinking, even my own experience of I, you, and the water. Let's dance and dance the blues, or picking the greens on the late fantastic, or once, or me in the universe, or Supertramp circa 70s radio rock station that never ended. Who are you? Who? Echolalia, hearing version, things interfere. I usually realize this. No, but it's your work. But people in UK used to sing it. This put that play, and here she's read her, really mess with shit just when you think you're going nuts. A so-called real taking hill to mess up the plan, and then will say you're first and attempt to fake. But is it? Or is it a battered strategy to keep having feelings? And what the colonized know? Why are all days, or some we know why, should feel them are bitter and worn days? Wouldn't be better off allowing emerge to feel and think as they do? How tend to pull the curtains but see nothing on, and then about all the, and I'm going to stop now in a puff of smoke. Now you see me, now you don't. So that was that experiment. I was struggling with whether to share this with you or not. Was it too experimental, too off the rails? When I just so happened to go see the play Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett, a Nobel laureate who some people have proposed may also have been autistic. While there's no way to know for sure, I heard the contours of autistic syntax in the speech given by Lucky in this production, performed by a disabled actor in a wheelchair, who's a character that's mute most of the time on stage and can only speak when given his hat by his master, who mostly speaks for him. Then when he does speak, which is referred to by his master as thinking instead of speaking, in what most critics have considered nonsense, and many actors too, but in this production, the actor made sense of seemingly nonsensical phrase, part of which goes like this. So this is this is Beckett's Lucky's speech, part of Lucky's speech in Waiting for Godot. In the plains, in the mountains, by the seas, by the rivers, running water, running fire, the air is the same, and then the earth, namely the air, and then the earth, in the great cold, the great dark, the air and the earth, abode of stones in the great cold, alas, alas, in the year of their Lord 600 and something, the air, the earth, the sea, the earth, abode of stones in the great deeps, the great cold on sea, on land, and in the air. I resume for reasons unknown in spite of the tennis. The facts are there, but time will tell. I resume, alas, alas, on, in short, in fine, on, abode of stones. Who can doubt it? I resume, but not so fast. I resume. So that was the Beckett quote. As I listened, it was like Beckett himself was reaching back from the grave and saying, yes, there is something here to see after all. Indeed, am I projecting? I don't know. But I found the syntactical relationship between this and my transcription kind of amazing. I could quote Beckett for the rest of this presentation and probably convince everyone here that he was autistic, but this is meant to be about my strategies and yours, so I'll demur, except to quote from another Beckett play aptly titled Not I. The staging is a mouth, and only a mouth, in case you've never seen it, visible of a woman with an auditor downstage silently listening who is in a 𝘗𝘶𝘌 with a black hood, so a full, fully covered. The mouth, quote unquote, speaks for about 20 minutes, but also refers to great stretches of time without speech, as with Lucky and other seemingly situationally mute presence, who then speaks seemingly without control and about herself in the third person. And in this excerpt, about an experience I think many of us have had. This just kind of blew me away when I reread it. Practically speechless, even to herself, never out loud, but not completely. Sometimes sudden urge, once or twice a year, always winter, some strange reason. The long evenings, hours of darkness, sudden urge to tell, then rush out, stop the first she saw nearest lavatory, start pouring it out, steady stream, mad stuff, half the vowels wrong, no one could follow, till she saw the stare she was getting, then die of shame, crawl back in. Who among us here who is autistic has not had that experience after unmasking, the stare, the shame, the crawl back in? And we wonder why it's so hard to communicate, to find a voice that sounds like us and not like mimicking something we hope someone might understand in a hesitant cadence or perhaps a flood of words, afraid if we stop, we might never stop. If we stop, we might never start again. Should I say we? I don't know. But I've certainly heard this experience shared by many autistic friends and colleagues. So what are the strategies I've created to move past the crawling back in? Here is one as described in the first chapter of my memoir in a section called Talk to Me, Don't Talk to Me, my David Bowie 𝘗𝘓𝘢 taking control of the title. Okay, so this is a little bit, talk to me, don't talk to me. She knows she needs to tell you this story, but she doesn't want to tell you this story. There are some stories that are harder to tell than others, some that cost. Will you listen? Will you hold a container for her that's strong enough she knows she can come back? Maybe a rope she can grasp or some chainmail? She wants to tell you the story about autism and trauma and yoga and art without describing certain things because it feels like trauma porn, like some kind of payment exacted for your attention. I'm speaking about her in the third person to protect her in case that's not entirely obvious. Here she is 25 years ago, cutting up texts, knocking at prison walls, listening out for a weak spot where it might give. So this is the cut up. I speak in language where I'm nothing, closely linked to the point of view of broken umbrellas. I'm in the death of autonomous lockup. I'm in the death of action, their theories positing how long I had been here, infinitely, no movement, no thought to just fall down. The texts she cut up are from a theater lab, the first theater work she's done without her husband in years, texts about gender, class, and religion in America, both found in their own memories. The marriage of true tension has disappeared. Our heroine now sees that my hoping for it has given a framework. There are multitudes, each one myself. You can see her almost trapped inside the cocoon, signaling, wanting out, not knowing how, so aware of her need for protection. She knows, you can hear it. She knows she has to fall. She knows the freeze. She knows what it is to be trapped. She knows when she has to play dead. She knows she cannot attack this trap directly. She does know. How does she know this? Well, it's in part because of a story she's tried to tell in so many ways and each time failed. The words plain seem too frightening to share also inadequate. Anyone who has experienced unspeakable things knows that, quote, normal language cannot touch this level of rupture. That most of the time, a silence surrounds these events that protect those who commit, condone, or ignore them. However, you were able to trick her by the use of cut-ups into writing, into believing I existed, even if in a language where I'm nothing, closely linked to the point of view of broken umbrellas, where there are multitudes, each one myself. She thinks it's mostly about gender. She's not wrong, but it's also about ancient wounds lodged in the body and unknown autism and never being seen or heard and knowing it, but not knowing how to be seen or heard except through masks. And yes, Artaud said that masks are what allow the truth to come out. But what about when the mask is soldered onto the face for fear of being visible even to oneself? Once she had an inkling I existed, she moved from cutting up pre-existing texts to cutting up her own thoughts and images as they emerged in daylight and in dreams, and called them stage texts. But until recently, you didn't even know the contours of the I. The eye is like a blue orchid that can bloom dazzlingly at times, but needs a lot of care, without which it crumples into itself, wilting listlessly. Others accuse her of acting spoiled or being oversensitive. Who do you think you are? She's asked, usually while sobbing uncontrollably and unable to speak or defend herself, or so shut down she's mute, being accused of manipulation through tears when all she wants to do is hide and be left alone. This is both a childhood experience and an adult one, too. The worst memories drenched in shame. Only now with some understanding, oh, autism, right, this is that, a meltdown, a sensory overload, involuntary, inevitable, no one knew, neither did she. So the I is real and not, solid and not, individual and not, because without all the contingencies of care, the I withers. The I in this sense is always something more than one. But I, the narrator of the book, appear as, quote, just I, which I am and am not. As 𝘗𝘈𝘔 wrote, we speak of self only in virtue of these thousands of little witnesses which contemplate within us. It is always a third party who says me. These cut-ups also resonate with the syntax of Beckett's not I, and of course now understanding I'm autistic is revelatory. The same year that the neurodiversity movement gained a voice, 1998, is when I happen to have created those texts, the tide affected by the moon, whether it knows it or not. This cut-up technique led to more free-form texts where I cut up my own thoughts and feelings. And after being diagnosed autistic and reading Yergeau, which led me to understand my stage texts were perhaps the closest unmasked autistic text I'd ever written, I wondered what that voice might sound like in response. This is just a couple of pages of what I wrote then. It's not very long. There is this moment when you find something, this thing that you knew and didn't know, that gives a key to who you are, one that was missing for years. And there is elation and a sense that it all makes sense now, a relief, an exhalation. And then you already know, yes, clunk. Because while it's true, now you know this thing and it's a big thing, you are still you. And while it might make sense of it all, it doesn't make the situation on the ground that much better, except it does. Yes, it definitely does. It does and it doesn't. Right. Yes. Like, say, finding out you've been going in the wrong direction for, oh, say, over a half a century and realizing now why all the landmarks are funky and somehow don't make sense because you are not going where you thought you were going or should be, right? Because you did all the things you thought you were supposed to do, but then back of a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot at 3 a.m. or whatever, as a metaphor, duh. And so this thing you discover answers the question of why the directions you read led you not to the ocean front home and your life full of art and friends and success, but instead to the vacant parking lot in the wee hours of the night, alone, staring at flashing neon sign with letters missing and hearing a cat wailing behind the dumpster. Stone cold sober, right, that's the best part. Sober as a judge, totally fucking sober, could not be more fucking sober. So this is no dream or hallucination, it's just reality. You in the open tuna can, or whatever, right? In your own noir film, but it's not a film or a Hopper painting, just your fucking life laid out, etherized upon the table, and etc. Not T.S. Eliot either, I'm afraid. Okay, whatever. But it's like, you can see what your life is now, like a map is on top of what had seemed a confused mess, like a tangle in your hair is suddenly visible, each strand, how it's bunched up and why. So clear. All these twists and turns, the meltdowns, the freakouts, the escape routes, the paralysis, the submission, the fighting, the desire to die, whatever anyone puts on an overhead light, the need to flee into another room whenever you're at a party, even if it's your own, and you love everyone there, the passions you can't release, the bullheadedness, the hatred of change, but also the hatred of repetition, but the need for it all at the same time. Autistic, fucking autistic. Autistic? Are you sure? You don't look autistic, glares, then laughs. That's the end of the opening of that. Do I engage with second persons because I've always seen myself from the outside as much as the inside, because that's how autistics are regarded, in the same way 𝘗𝘕 was accused as a child of being a thief when he hadn't stolen anything and then became a thief as an adult? How we are seen into the world affects how we see. These dialogic voices come in and out of my prose now too. I can't not see from that point of view. It's not intellectualizing, it's not dissociation. It's instead allowing for the importance of second persons. Sometimes the outside viewer is generous, sometimes hostile, perhaps a judge. It morphs, just like my relationship to myself morphs from moment to moment, as does my place in the world amongst others. We aren't monads. We swim in a sea of the social as it shifts along the wind and rain and tides. We are not affected. As Aaron Manning writes in relation to Deleuze's observation quoted earlier, here in the midst of life living, artfulness reminds us that the I is not where life begins, and the you is not what makes art. Made up as it is of 1,000 contemplations, the art of time reminds us that, quote, we must speak of the self only in virtue of these thousands of little witnesses which contemplate within us. It is always a third party who says me. Brian Masumi, in his prelude to Manning's Always More Than One, summarizes her definition of autistic perception as, quote, a field of perception directly apprehending the complex relational patterning of space-times of experience in their teeming with contingencies and in all their uniqueness, a direct perception of the transcendental field of becoming. In contrast to the more neurotypical perception that, quote, immediately divides it into subject and object-oriented affordances readily made for the traditional either-or logic and its categorical judgments, primarily in this case of usefulness, form and function redux, ready for sensible duty. That sense. Anyway, this directly relates to Patanjali and the goals of yoga, the release of the I. However, when you're autistic and can access this relatively quickly, people think you're lying or delusional, so you learn to simply not say anything about it and become deeply insecure about your own experience. I've even tried not to feel 𝘗 or prana coursing through me because apparently it was impossible since I was a beginner. Now, 25 years later, I'm obviously no longer a beginner, but I feel more like one now, and not in the positive beginner's mind sense, more the way that was bashed into me since forever ago, that I can't trust my own experience, that I'm not feeling right or what I'm feeling it right or whatever. The many ways in which being autistic in a neurotypical world can be disabling, this may be one of the most insidious. Decades of radical self-doubt does not evaporate overnight. But I want now to value my autistic perception rather than take it for granted or ignore it. Looking out the window here in Westray, seeing the rose bushes in the wind and the wind turbine, a part of it from behind the house, the felt sense of connection with these larger forms being a part of. When I give myself a moment of contemplation, it comes easily. This is in some ways meditation and in some ways contemplation because it can happen whenever and sometimes catching me off guard, like now looking out the window. Not at the sweeping vistas from the dining room, but the more humble view of the small car roundabout made of shells and stones and the steading across the way and the stone walls and the sky. But the movement of the rose bushes never fails to move me. When I allow the moment, or I'm gifted the moment of contemplation, the grass too is moving. When you start to look, it all becomes connected. Manning writes, patterns emerge, and in their emergence, they create new experience, new kinds of expression in the making, new shapes of enthusiasm in the bodying. And then she quotes Julia Bascom's wonderful thing that she wrote about this. One of the things about autism is that a lot of things can make you terribly unhappy while barely affecting others. A lot of things are harder, but some things are so much easier. Sometimes being autistic means you get to be incredibly happy. It's that the experience is so rich. It's textured, vibrant, and layered. It exudes joy. It's a hug machine for my brain. It makes my heart pump faster and my mouth twitch back into a smile every few minutes. I feel like I'm sparkling. Every inch of me is totally engaged and empowered up by the obsession. Things are clear. It's beautiful. It's perfect. Adam Wolfond, a non-speaking autistic poet, wrote to Manning in relation to his concept of languaging, which insists on language outside of pre-existing grammatical constructs. I want to say that the having of the forces and meanings are dancing together to give ideas about the wanting ways of relation, and that language is the pace of feeling and the calls that things people think are not alive. And that means that the ways of the relation are pacing to the forces and intensities that rally together to need the language and things and atmospheres together. To read Wolfen's words is an invitation to slow down, is to stop assuming X word means Y thing, means dancing in the ways of languaging, means understanding that feelings, thoughts are real, and even outside of autistic perception, there's a whole world we all can access if we're willing to surrender the stranglehold of the neurotypical. In Manning and Wolfen's words, I see uncanny echoes of what I aimed for decades before knowing I was autistic to do with my own writing and theater, which is what we're going to begin to play with now. Yay! Using the prompts and to see if we can discover a collective and idiosyncratic autistic syntax. Okay, so I'm going to put, I think it's been long past since the prompts have been in, and some of you might not have ever seen them. So I'm going to put the prompts in here now. And okay, I've got to put them in two chunks. And as I said at the beginning, for anyone who's come a little later, you can respond to these in any way. You don't have to use words. It can be images, it can be anything. Yeah, and then this is the 8th one, it's just the last one. So I'm gonna doubt, actually, oops, hold on. Try that again, sorry, all right. Okay, there we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is give you about 5 to 10 minutes just to see if anyone wants to respond to these prompts in whatever way. And what I'll ask for after that time is if there's, say, about 4 or 5 people who'd like to volunteer to do a kind of thing with a few of those responses. So it doesn't have to be to everything. It could be just to a few of them. Can you guys see that now? Can you see the prompts? Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm going to just give because it's been a lot. So I just want to give you like 5 to 10 minutes to look at these and respond how you'd like. I'm going to go back just so that people, well, nobody's like overwhelming the space, but mostly if you want to ask me any questions in the chat, that's probably better. So people who want to just can focus on them. And for your responses, make sure you have them somewhere you can see them too, especially if you want to do the exercise, because we're going to try to do a live thing with a few people who might feel brave. It's actually really fun, but I know it can seem intimidating, so. I'm loving what I'm seeing so far. Yeah, I got that one. You're not autistic, you do everything. So, okay, does everyone, I'm just hoping everyone has the prompts now because I'm gonna need to take the share screen off. Does everyone, can someone pop in and just tell me if they need to keep seeing them? Because I need to be able to see you guys, so I need to take the share off. Well, I'll take it off, and if it's a problem, I'll find out. Okay, you should be able to speak at this point. Oh, yeah, you should be able to speak. Okay. All right. So, is there anybody who would be willing to play with me a little bit with some of your responses? You can either just tell me verbally or raise your little virtual hand and the reaction thing. Yay, brave.
Anyone going to
Brave, make him hang. All right, good. One more. Come on, one more brave person can do it. I know you can.
What are you asking for volunteers for?
For an exercise I'm about to explain. But I have 4 people right now, so I'm very happy about this. Okay, you guys, I am going to try to spotlight you all. Okay. Can you put it into some kind of a sentence or something that what you, or is it hard, whatever you want to do? I mean, can you say it out loud?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
So yeah, I really resonated with the point about attempts at clarity being perceived as unclear, and I feel like that pressured me to like get to a point of clarity. And I also really resonated with the quote about like when you got a chance, like keep going, or you might never have that chance again. Sorry, I'm super dark.
No, it's okay. Just do me a favor. I'm sorry. Okay.
You want to go? I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go on.
Oh, yeah, that was
So
basically.
those are your two.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you.
Yeah, this is probably a bad idea. Because like all of a sudden, all this traffic started coming.
It's okay. Work with it. Let it be part of it. We're good. This is like the traffic. It's the noise. It's the thing. We're fine. It's all fine. Honestly, like, don't worry about it as a problem. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it is what it is. It's annoying. It's hard. And it's okay. You have not made a mistake, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Do you remember what I said last?
You said the thing about wanting. Oh God, does someone else remember?
I caught it now.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing about like, yeah, this flood of words and like, if I stop, I might never get the chance to start again. Because it feels just like so random whether people are gonna understand or like judge and make assumptions.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. So I'm gonna move to the other people just for time's sake. But what I'm gonna
ask you to do is that idea. Just see if you can write it out, either type it for yourself or think about it as a sentence that you can repeat a couple times in different ways. It doesn't have to be exact, but just see if you can think. Just let yourself. I'm gonna take you off the hook here, and just give you a moment for that and the other one. So I'm gonna go over to now. So which prompts do you remember? Which ones you answered?
Yeah, number 3, something idiosyncratic about me.
Okay. And
so something idiosyncratic about me would display itself as idiosyncratic. Isn't that the government of idiosyncs? And speaking of prompts, I responded to the delays. And when I was a child, I thought autism was spelled OUGHTISM, as in you ought to do this, you ought to be that, or you oughtn't.
Okay, that's great stuff. Okay, so just hold on to that, and we're gonna play with that. That's great stuff. And stuff's great too, man. Don't worry, we're good. How about you? How did you answer any? Is there any of the prompts that spoke to you?
Yeah, I answered a few of them, but the one that got the most attention was number 8, and that was a story about how in 6th grade there was one mean kid told me I looked dumb when I smiled and bullied me and stuff, so I didn't smile for decades. And then a few years ago, I just said, heck with it, I'm just gonna try smiling. And now I can't help it. So I took it back. It was like I liberated that smile.
That's awesome. Okay, that's great. That's great stuff.
Okay,
So not smiling wasn't part of my autism, it was a trauma behavior.
Absolutely. Great. Okay. And again, and you'll understand why for the 3 of you that have spoken, see if you can make these stories into like a couple of a sentence or 2 or maybe 3 at the most, and you'll understand why, because you're going to need to repeat them. So see if you can do that. And I'm going to go over to how about you? What prompt spoke to you or prompts spoke to you?
I'm going back to look at what I wrote. So things like, well, autistic parents drive me crazy. The idea that we have no empathy and that profound autism is a separate condition just makes me want to start beating my head against a wall. You're the highest functioning autistic I know. You're nothing like my child. All you need is a job.
Right.
Canaries in the coal mine, as we are treated, so goes everyone and everything. In grad school, teacher said, you bring things up that aren't related, and I said, I can't help it if you can't see the connections I do. People talk about masking. I don't know how to mask. I only know how to be me.
Okay.
And I feel like to be autistic is to be traumatized all the time by the environment, and non-compliance is a life skill. When I was diagnosed late, I think I was 38 or 40, and I decided I didn't have to care what NTs thought anymore, and I was more than willing to weaponize my autism and stop putting us into functioning levels.
Oh God, please! I know.
Oh my God.
Dude,
So, yeah.
believe it. Okay, got you.
That's awesome. So again, okay. So see if you can, you might want.
Those are all great.
I had a brother that was autistic and he upset the world much more than I did.
Okay.
So he got more attention for that, and then next to him, I looked like nothing.
Right.
Yeah, I think that I've heard that story before. So take what we're going to do is I'm going to have all four. What you're going to do is I want to ask you to take what you've just said. It doesn't have to be exactly repeating, but you're going to repeat what you just said, all four of you, one at a time. And what I want, and I'm going to have you repeat it in different ways, okay? So that you can hear how they come across, if depending on what your audience is, essentially. So initially, what I'd love you to do is say the phrase to yourself, or phrases as if you're speaking to yourself, okay? And because we started with you, I'm going to take down your hand because we see you. Would you like to say what you said as if you were speaking to yourself, if you have it in a couple sentences? I don't know whether she can hear me.
She might be trying to. Oh, there she is. Okay.
I can try. Ironically, I don't know if I would speak in a couple sentences if I was speaking to myself.
So
it would probably be like a bunch of concepts. Like I did write a sentence, but it was like for an audience rather than for myself, if that makes sense.
Right.
So, okay. So just for the sake of I completely understand you, by the way, 100%. For the sake of this exercise, just come up with a weird reason you'd be saying that sentence to yourself and just say it like you're saying it to yourself.
Okay, I'm just gonna read what I wrote because that's the only reason I could come up with.
Totally. Got it.
Yeah,
really, I hear you. Just read it. It's fine.
I feel pressured to gain clarity on others' terms because I have an impossible time finding people who can slow down to process with me.
Beautiful. Okay, that's great. How about you? Can you do the same thing?
Yeah, I was just typing that out. I'll just. So I wrote, because I think in direct meaning, where it's pretty verbal, but then I'll think in words also, depending on where my mind is working. Anyway, so I just wrote out, something's idiosyncratic about me is my warped sense of literalism, where idiosyncratic is the government of 𝘗𝘗𝘢𝘕. Prompts become delays. I thought I had autism, spelled O-U-G-H-T, as in you ought to be, do this, that, and the other. So that's what I put in as a sentence.
Great. Okay, good. Just hold on to that and just and can you read whatever you wrote down as if you were talking to yourself?
Oh, yeah, well, if I was talking to myself, there might be an impolite word not to say here, but I'll paraphrase it. I do. To myself, I would just say, hey, dude, don't let those jerks from 6th grade win. We're going to smile, and whether people like it or not.
Excellent. Great. Impolite words are fine with me. I live in New York. All right. But you know.
You're okay. You're okay. It doesn't matter what they think and say. You're okay.
Awesome. Okay, that's beautiful. All right. Now going total, like imagine now you're speaking to, we're going to go through it again, the same thing, but as if you're talking to a neurotypical who you're pretty sure is not going to understand what the fuck you're saying. See, sorry, I already did it for you. Anyway, so I've broken the glass. Okay, so can you say what you said? That sentence you wrote for an audience, so you got it pre-planned. You're totally masked up. How are you saying this sentence?
I don't have an explanation. You know, I don't have a short explanation for this.
Oh, cool. Okay, so you actually changed the whole sentence. Okay, great. Say it, but do me a favor, just for the hell of it. See if you can go back to your original. I love that, by the way. But see if you can go back to the original sentence and say it as if you were saying it, that sentence. You had to say, for whatever reason, that sentence to a neurotypical, the one you wrote, the first one.
I feel pressured to reflect at a pace that's unrealistic and harmful and exhausting to be able to access spaces where people talk about things, which as I'm saying that, I realize that would open this huge can of worms and like.
Yes, but it was great because I noticed, I don't know if you guys noticed this.
But what I noticed is the difference between when you said it to us initially, what you were expecting to understand, and the way you just said it. I don't know if anyone else heard this, the difference of what happens when you're trying to communicate. It was very interesting. So just hold on to that. Just hold on to that. Now, you're a bunch of neurotypicals.
Ironically, it's identical.
Oh, good. Then go for it.
All right. Well, if you were to ask me something that is idiosyncratic about me, it's that my mind automatically creates word plays because it scrambles everything I hear and see almost constantly. And because I'm extremely literal, for whatever reason, ostensibly due to autism, so if I was to hear the word idiosyncratic or idiosyncrasy, I immediately think of democracy, I think of government, and so I think of a government of idiosyncs, whatever that might happen to be. And since this was presented to me as a prompt, but it took me some reflection, it was more of a delay than a prompt. And when I was a kid, I got confused about the difference between words that are spelled and words that are sounded out. And so when I heard autism for the first time, I thought it was based on the word ought, as in you ought to do this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
So,
and
oh, sorry. No, sorry. Go ahead.
That would be it.
Yeah, and I but you know what? You did it differently. I don't know if anyone else saw this, but you did it actually very different. You elaborated.
Well, I did a lot more than
slowly.
I did a lot more than elaborate.
Yeah, but you
I went into 5 or 6 different dimensions at once.
Yeah. But do you see what I mean? It's different. It changes it, doesn't it? It changes just by knowing you're talking to a neurotypical. You've changed your whole demeanor and your way of speaking as well.
Yes.
Which is great. I mean, I'm not great, but it's great to know. Okay. Can you do the same?
Let's see, if I was explaining that to a neurotypical person, what I would say is I would describe how, 6th grade got bullied, and somebody said, real mean kid said that I look dumb when I smile, so I didn't smile. And if they didn't understand that, I'd say, think of a time when you went through something so painful that it made you stop doing something that you had been doing. And that's how I would get them to empathize with me.
Okay, good. Okay, great. Good. Okay. How about you? How would you speak to a neurotypical?
You need to understand that, to be autistic is to be traumatized all the time by the environment. And of course, I'm nothing like your child. Your child is 14, and I'm
Good. I love that. I love that. And I love that you went the opposite way. Yeah, I relate to it because I'm 62 and I'm like you. I'm like, the world, there's not enough time. I would do it in a sentence. I love that. Okay. I love all these. These are all amazing strategies. Okay. All right. So
look, you should have seen me when I was 14. Then we could talk about how whether I was like your child or not.
right. So now, assuming you trust each other enough, I mean, I know this is a slightly public venue and we're, here. I want you to start, I'd like you to talk to each other with these phrases, okay? Now, when I say conversation, what I would like you to do, and this is an experiment, is so one of the things I work with is cut-ups, right? So let's just say, just tell me one part of your sentence, just any part of one of your sentences. Just give me one of your sentences.
Doesn't matter which one, anything.
Clarity.
Okay, clarity. Okay, that's the beginning. Give me a part of or a sentence or a part of one of your sentences.
I'm governed by idiosyncs.
Okay, so
A cut up would be, I'm governed by clarity. Okay, you see where I'm getting now? Okay. So what I want you to do is play with, I just want to see how this works, so that you're talking amongst yourselves, essentially, telling these stories, but allowing to see if you can first tell each other the stories. You might want to repeat somebody else's first so that you know you've heard them, right? So kind of an echolalia first, and then let them sort of maybe meld a bit. Okay, does that make sense? You guys understand? Okay, no, okay. So first we're going to we'll do it simply at first. So first, just once again, just go through, it's with each other. So and just the stories without me saying anything. And then I'll say conversation. So then you can start like maybe hearing. It's not so much like a back and forth exactly. It's a little bit different. So as opposed to a conversation where you might ask somebody something, say said clarity and something, you might then repeat what she said. And then you guys might repeat each other's things and then see if you can start cutting them up between each other. Does that make sense now? Is that more sensible? Okay, good. Thank you for asking, by the way. I really appreciate when people ask. Does that sound fun? Okay, let's see what happens. So first we'll go, and then I'm going to say, now play with each other and see how it goes. So start again.
So I feel the need to reflect copiously for like several days to try to come up with an explanation for what I'm going through that might work for people, only to have mixed results. And then other times, like, when I reach that place like spontaneously with people, I'm like, it just feels so rare and precious, and I want to keep going.
I'm kind of lost. what's my prompt at this point?
Okay, just to say your story again, but just to each other, just to this group right here. So just say your story again.
Okay, the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, or just part. You can make it shorter. I mean, you.
I'll condense it.
Yeah.
I'm governed by idiosyncs. That's why I'm idiosyncratic.
Okay, good.
Still a bit confused, but so I just say, bully in sixth grade stole my smile, and decades later I took it back.
Right, perfect. Just hold on to that sentence. Just part one of your sentences again, just as if you're muted though.
Work with people, work with people, work with people. No longer care what idiots, bullies think.
Great. Oh, nice.
You already started cutting up. Well done, advanced. Okay, so now just play with that. Play with bringing in each other's words to your words and see what happens. But without me telling you who goes next.
Only to have mixed results that I took back.
Work with people to gain clarity, supposedly, and end up more confused progressively.
I'm a bit lost here, I have to admit. It's not syncing with my computer programmer brain.
That's okay. That's great. But you know what? I love that you've
Did that phrase? I'm a little bit lost here.
and that's
Autistic
fine. Like
parents
you
drive me
can.
crazy.
But I just want to say to if you hear any words that other people are saying now and you want them to bring that into yours,
Just
Okay.
do that.
does that make sense? So it's like code.
A little bit.
There's code. Okay.
I'm going to pretend I know anything about code, which I don't. So pretend there's this
Code over here and this code over there, and you put them
together. I don't know. So let's keep going.
You can't help it if you can't see the patterns I do.
The boys took my mixed results away. And decades later, I became idiosyncratic. I feel like I'm listening to Proctor and Bergman from Firesign Theatre.
I love Fireside Theater.
You want to try one?
Well, let's see. Still not kind of getting it. Still not kind of getting it.
Okay. Okay.
But that's okay. I like to stretch myself, so I'm forcing myself to stretch a bit.
No, it's great. You're fine. Yeah. So just just listen to what they're saying and see if any of those words click with you in any way. And if you want to bring in some of those words into.
Well, actually, I could say idiosyncratic thing about me is I lost my smile, but once I gained clarity, I was able to take it back.
There you go. Beautiful. That's it. You did it.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So I wrapped my head around it a little bit.
Yeah, that's great. Great. You did. That's great. Okay.
I wrap my head around and around and around, and it's a merry-go-round that never stops.
I love merry-go-rounds. The horses.
It's nice to have a head mix.
Head mix, more like tread mix.
Somebody wants to extend the breakout section after the Zoom.
I can break out in freestyle rap if you like.
Weaponize autism. Weaponize autism.
It'd be great to bring the chat box into this.
Yes. You can do actually.
Well,
you can.
We could go places with this for sure.
Yes.
You know what? I think we've liberated our syntax.
You have. Yay.
Okay. So you guys
Did amazing. So give them all a hand. I'm giving them a hand. You can if you want to. I think that was incredible. So would another group like to do that, or would you like to talk about what we saw? I'm going to leave that up to the group. So I need to see. I'm gonna unpin you guys, and also if you want, I meant to say this before. If anyone watching this has been inspired to create their own text as this goes, you can send it to me as well separately if you want, my email and whatnot. I might create a Substack using with anyone's permission. I would love to add some of this stuff in if people wanted to, but only if you wanted to. So, so let me just see. Yes. Yeah.
You can hear me. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
people can unmute.
Generally we have a hard stop at an hour and a half because of
good. Okay.
autism. But wait. So but I would love to hear from people like how we could take these ideas and do this regularly in a more free-form style, because it's clear to me that a lot of people want to participate. Probably, well, for me anyway, a little slower because of my auditory processing.
Yeah.
And put in like movement, like maybe one prompt at a time, and we could do movement or, just explore like that. Because this has been an amazing springboard. My brain is just all over the place.
Oh yeah, that's what I actually used to do a lot of, was movement stuff with it. There's a lot of stuff. This is just a tiny little, and also usually in a room together. So it's very, Zoom is challenging. And the fact these guys were willing to do it at all, I'm just so grateful. Yeah, no, I had hoped that, there would be more time for all the things, but of course everything takes forever to figure out on Zoom. But yes, I agree. I 100% agree. I think that would be great. And there are many ways to go with this, and it can go very slowly. It can build up, and I just kind of wanted to create the entryway into it so people knew what, is about, and then create the ideas. So, but yeah, I agree. I think it would be super fun to keep going.
Brilliant. Let's try to do it regularly. I'd love to have you come back and do that from time to time.
100%.
We can.
It's joy. It's a joy for me. I find it very joyful. And also really seriously, if people, I will put my, once again, because I guess the copy thing doesn't work. I'm going to put my, email in here. So if you guys wrote, anything, or, or created drawings, or did anything, recorded anything that you would like me to see, I would love to see it. And maybe, Dawn, we put something out about that to people who are here through Meetup or whatever, just so that people know. I would love to kind of get a sense of that. If anyone, also, I don't know if we have to do a hard stop now. Is that it?
Oh, we can take another couple of minutes. And I usually tell people to go to the media platforms where we've advertised someone's session, and then they can start a discussion or put pictures or whatever underneath that. And so we can do that for sure.
Yeah. And if
Oh, and one
anyone
more thing.
Mhm.
Somebody wanted you to put up on our media platforms the prompts so they could go through them
Oh,
more
sure.
slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
excellent.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, no problem. Yep. And does anyone, I just wanted to quickly ask whether anyone wanted to share anything like that they wrote, or anything they feel really like they really want to share in the group, if there is just a couple minutes left, or a question or anything. Just wanted to leave that open.
Still here. I have to leave.
I don't know who he is, so I don't know if he is here. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Someone was asking me in the chat, because I made the comment that we are, despite neuronormative projection, the truth is we are socially gifted, and we always have to make the extra effort to explain ourselves. And we do it thoroughly, and we do it slowly, and we try to cover every single base. And people don't want to hear that, but I firmly believe that's the truth.
Yeah, and we didn't have time to get into it, but I think I tried to point out a little bit. I actually have a lot more different kinds of levels of presence and address to work with, but I just wanted to keep it as simple as possible. But is that the way that things change based on, I think we saw that in what these guys did, just even with thinking about, okay, I'm talking to a neurotypical person, and suddenly everything shifts, right? Because there's that sense. And it's interesting because way before I was found out I was autistic, my second husband, my third husband, but my second husband, he's still here. He made it. Um, he said to me once, he's like, Julie, you talk to people like you think they're not going to understand you. And I realized immediately he was right. I didn't have any idea why, but I was like, oh my God, he's right. I do that. But that's because obviously I was, unfortunately, what he didn't realize, and I didn't realize, and I didn't have an answer for, is that's because most people don't understand me. That's why I'm talking like that, not making it up. And like you said, we have to constantly, and where the social gifts become, but then when you saw people just talking to each other, like us, just, us chickens, suddenly it's a totally different vibe. And it's not perfect. We're not perfect. We're not all the same. We miss each other's boats terribly at times. I've certainly had that happen with other autistic people, but there's a way to communicate with each other. I mean, Dawn, we've had that experience where we've missed each other's boat, and then found, you know, really pretty fast, right? Like,
Yes.
Julia, when you say that, Julia, and when you just said you feel like people don't understand what you're saying, and this is just my perspective as a non-autistic. It's because people just don't take the time. Like, people literally do not take the time to step outside of their norm or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I watch it all the time, and I know I'm just chatting, and so I will really quickly, just because it's like I just have to share this because it was such a beautiful thing. 2 nights ago, I went to meet a new family with a 12-year-old, non-speaking, is the term the mom used, autistic individual, and we met at this coffee shop, right? And I say all the time, there are so many differences in different cultures. We were at the coffee shop, and it was late, and so it was just us kind of hanging out, and the 12-year-old was chilling with us, and then we're talking, and then he got up. He like walked and explored. He even went behind like the cashier where the coffee place. The coffee shop person was trying to figure out what he wanted. No one was alarmed. No one was alerted. No one said, "Oh my gosh." Then there was a trash can top that spins. And so he's like spinning it, right? And I was like, uh-oh, somebody found a fidget, right? Somebody's excited. Sensory, visual STEM, and his mom and I were just talking, but people do not take the time, and I'm trying to get people to take the time, but it's because I don't think that it should be people don't understand you because of the way you communicate. It's like, come on, people, like, make an adjustment. Like, oh my gosh, we're not all the same. But that's just my perspective on people in life. But because I don't want and I say that, Julia, because I don't want my students to ever feel like they have to do extra to get someone to understand them, right? My attitude is, listen, if they don't understand you or they're not willing to work with you, walk away and find somebody else. Like, seriously, we're not going to sit here and try to convince Becky to be your friend, right? That's Becky's loss. Let's move on. And I know that's not easy, but I'm saying it shouldn't be just the autistic individual making adjustments.
oh, no, I agree. And that's one of the reasons why
What I'm searching for, and the whole point of this, is
to look for what is autistic syntax and
we own it and feel confident in it in the same
way that somebody like Toni Morrison was like, no, I'm going to stop writing for white people. I'm going to write for white people, and y'all can come over here if you want to. And but the autistic world hasn't quite got, it like I mean, some people have, like Yergeau. I mean, there are people that have, but like, it's not as, it's a big deal to do that.
Is what I'm saying. And
especially if you're a writer and you have to deal with the writing world and things like that, like
I do,
you end up with a lot of problems
because
you have to constantly be translating in some way. That was the whole point of my prelude.
It was
kind of like, hello, this is what I'm doing, and it probably
seemed really boring to some of you, but it's like,
I felt like, okay, I gotta try to lay this out
for somebody
who might not know what the hell this is about.
We should start a
agree with
non-compliance movement. Non-compliance. We're not
non-compliant.
Screw compliance.
I know, right?
It's exhausting. It is exhausting.
Yeah.
This is so exhausting.
Yeah.
And I agree with iPhone. I don't know who you are, iPhone, because it just says iPhone, but in situations where we lack power, often the case, we can't just walk away, or it seems extremely risky to our livelihood to do so. Amen, brother and or sister and or non-binary person on iPhone. I agree.
And that's
the problem is that we're
usually
stuck in these situations. I mean, that's what makes that whole speech, but the lucky speech, oh my God, you guys, like, go find Waiting for Godot and read. I mean, it's just like, oh my God, to see that was incredible. And just the way it's framed as like he wasn't allowed to speak until his hat was on, and then it got taken off, like just all of it. Yeah. So.
Well, I hate to say it, but like, I really feel like neuronormative society, not all the individuals in it, but the society generally, is based on cruelty and exploitation. I mean,
and that's that.
has an impact
impact on how
you speak and how safe.
it is.
Yes.
You speak. I mean, a lot of people here know.
No, what I mean, I'm preaching to the choir. I get that, but I just want that to go on the video that's going to be coming out, you know, because it's so true.
Yeah.
I just want to go forever and ever, but I know we've got to put the brakes on. Unfortunately, I really would like to do this every day. It just feels like home to be with
Yeah.
people and do this kind of thing. So I can't thank you enough, Julia. You're
Oh God, my
brilliant
pleasure.
mind and your brilliant heart.
Thank you. I mean, really, I mean, I quoted, I know, I think she's had to go, but like, you know, it was talking to her and she had actually heard of my theater company, which blew my mind. It was a strange little theater company in London. And I realized, talking to her and looking at her writing and then looking at my writing and my PhD about that, I was like, holy crap, this was an autistic theater company, you know? And it's like, before I knew I was autistic. And so all of these things were about pulling apart all these rules and all this stuff, right? And so it's very exciting for me because I was wondering what was going to happen to that part of my life, you know, and stuff. So it's which is just by my way of saying I'm very excited about that idea, Dawn. And we can definitely do it more. I am. Yay.
Yay!
We'll figure it out. But I agree, because I would like to slow it down. I'd like it to be more, that this was in the context of a talk. So I want to do a presentation and then show something. So, but we can do just workshop, you know, where we get to break it all down and slow it down.
Yeah, let's schedule it immediately.
Yeah, 100%. I'm there. Yep.
Right on.
Cool. Y'all heard it here first.
Yes, you heard it
big
here
money
first.
for. But do check out my Substack, y'all. It's Lee Barclay-Morton. It's called Songs for the Unadapted Ones. I'm very excited about it because it's a place I can put stuff. I'm gonna put the thing down again. You can do it for free. It's fine, don't worry. And yeah, anyway, whatever. There it is.
Excellent.
Yeah. So cool. All right, guys. Well, I don't want to keep you. I did find, if you want to, I just found a way to save. There's 3 dots at the top of the meeting chat, and it does give me an option to save it. I don't know if everyone else has that option, but I got that option. So no. Okay, well, I saved it. I've got it. And tell me if you want, anyone who's still here, you know, please do email or tell me if you'd like me to put some of any thoughts you've had about this. I'm going to write about this for my Substack at some point, this whole experience and maybe the presentation itself. And the prompts will be there and whatnot. So, but if there's anything reactions, etc., you had that you would like me to add, I would love that. So, yeah. Okay. Thanks,
Wonderful.
Dawn. Thanks, Roger. Yay. Thanks, everyone.